What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this Murray lawnmower, and the problem is that it doesn't run very well, and after a few minutes it'll stop running and will not start again. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this mower, but this fix may not be the one you need for yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. In a previous video, we got this mower running after it sat for a really long time in storage. The carburetor was really dirty, but we got it cleaned well enough to get it working again. However, it looks like we're going to have to replace it as the carburetor keeps shedding debris internally and clogging itself. There's still gas in the tank, so we'll have to drain it before we replace the carburetor. On a side note, if your Tecumseh engine is missing this silver piece in the cap, you'll need to replace it. This silver part helps air properly vent into the gas tank, and without it your engine might stop after a few minutes of running, but it will start again after letting it sit for a few minutes. Anytime you drain the gas from your tank, take the opportunity to inspect it. Ours is the right color, and I don't see any water or debris at the bottom. I don't really like this carburetor layout as it's tough to get to all the bolts, so replacing it is really tedious. If we need to, we might loosen the intake tube bolts so we have a little extra room. After removing the crankcase vent tube, take a good look at the governor linkages and see how they're arranged. Otherwise, the engine might over-rev and possibly break the connecting rod. So here's the new carburetor, and before we go any further, let's compare it to the old one and make sure that it's a direct replacement. So it looks pretty much the same, but it might still need slight adjustments to get it to run right with an old engine. It even came with a new gasket, which is going to be helpful because I'm sure the old gasket is going to be stuck to the original carburetor. Now you could remove the air filter adapter later on, but I'm going to do it right now while the carburetor is still attached to the intake tube. And after taking off the adapter, make sure you also remove this O-ring, which in this case was stuck to the carburetor. You'll need to put it back on the adapter later on. Now you don't have to remove the carburetor bulb, but I want to take it off and see exactly how much debris is clogging up this carburetor. And as you can see, there's still some at the bottom of the bowl. Now it's not that bad, but we're still going to replace it and not worry about it anymore. Now the next thing to do is to try and remove the nuts and the bolts that hold the carburetor to the intake tube. And unfortunately we can't get a good turn on the back nut, so what I'm going to do instead is remove the fuel tank and the recoil assembly to get some more room. Now I would loosen the intake tube bolts, but there's a chance it might break the gasket there, and I don't want to risk it. Now that we have some room, we can now remove the nuts and take off the carburetor. Don't bother removing the bolts if you can help it. Now before installing the new carburetor, slide the new gasket onto the bolts and then transfer the fuel line to the new carburetor. Next, reattach the linkage to the carburetor and then slide it onto the bolts and then replace the nuts. Another reason why this engine would stop and not start again is an ignition coil that's going bad. If you suspect that to be your problem, either borrow one from another engine and test it on yours, or buy one if you're willing to make the investment. Next, carefully replace the air filter base, the recoil assembly, and of course the fuel tank. And lastly, replace the air filter and then put some gas back into the tank, and then we'll finally try starting it again. Well, it starts and runs, but the dirty air filter and the old spark plug might be causing it to run just a little bit off. The good news is that it did not shut off on me when I was using it later on, so our repair worked. So my question is, would you have kept cleaning the carburetor every time it got clogged till it was completely cleaned, or would you have just replaced it and not worried about it again? I know what I would have done, but I'm more curious about your answer. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I hope to see you in my next video.